In part 1 of What If Frieza Was Born in Universe 6, we broke down a couple things. What would happen for the majority of the time if Frieza was in Universe 6? What would occur? What events would happen? And what are the possibilities of Frieza even being there? But now, I think some of y'all were wondering what would have happened in Universe 7 since Frieza was gone. And that's what we're going to be going over in part 2 of What If Frieza Was Born in Universe 6. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. Check the links in the description. I have a Discord for this channel, so if you want to check that out, you can do that as well. With that said, let's not waste time. Let's get into the video. Let's get it. It was the dawn of the beginning for the Saiyans. And it seems like the Saiyans have very, if not any, restrictions at all. The Saiyan race is thriving, and after taking over a planet that is supposed to be for the Tuffles, they continue to thrive. There is no void of concentration in terms of conquering every last planet they can possibly see. But with that said, there's a couple things that could occur. There's two, in fact. One is that Beerus would end up destroying the Saiyans. Beerus may actually still choose to do the job himself. Of course, there is no Frieza. There is no person to do the dirty work for Lord Beerus, but Beerus may come across this planet, may come across planet Vegeta, and think to himself that, well, King Vegeta's too arrogant. He has too high of an ego, and to Beerus, he'll destroy them. And there is no coming back from actually dying to Beerus. There is no coming back to avenge the Saiyan race. And if Beerus decides, hey, I want to destroy planet Vegeta, there is nothing that's going to stop him from doing so. And of course, Frieza in the beginning, there was nothing to stop him either. But if Beerus decided to annihilate the Saiyan planet, we could see a ton of things go very, very similar. Since Vegeta is off-world, we can make the assumption that Vegeta, Raditz, and so on would still be alive in this scenario. But there is a pretty good chance that the one and only Goku would die. I hate to say that, and it is pretty sad, but there's a good chance Goku would die. Now, for those who don't like the idea of Goku being dead in this reality, especially because he was a baby, and that does make it kind of depressing, let's just say Bardock may, just may, actually pick up on the idea that the Saiyan race is under threat, that the Saiyan race may die because of, well, their association at all with Beerus. So he decides to send off his kid, send off Goku or Kakarot. And from here on out, most things would go relatively similar, if not exactly the same. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that would be mildly different would be where Frieza is throughout this time. I mean, they would still go to Namek. Vegeta probably will still meet them there, but this time around, Goku is ready, and on top of that, there really isn't any chance that Goku and the Z Fighters wouldn't win this battle. There's no way Vegeta would be able to get an upper hand enough to actually get immortality, and frankly, things would kind of go exactly in the favor of the Z Fighters, making things far easier. And in terms of Cell, let's talk about Cell relatively quickly. Cell would be, in my opinion, an easier fight, and the androids themselves would be an easier fight, and that's because Frieza and King Cold never dropped down onto Earth. In theory, of course, this, like I said, this would make Cell and the androids weaker, but we also would have to talk about the lack of Super Saiyan. I believe they would eventually get Super Saiyan, but would that hurt them in terms of growth heading up until the androids? Well, we can only make assumptions, but my assumption would be slightly yes, but at the same time, Goku himself didn't have perfect control over Super Saiyan over 3 years of training, because he was mostly training his son Gohan and also training with Piccolo. So I could see, though, even with all that said, the androids being a easier challenge. I'm not saying that they're easy by any means, but definitely easier, and a Kami fused or true Piccolo would definitely be able to eliminate both of them. But with all that said, anything past there, in my opinion, would go relatively the same, like almost exactly the same. But let's talk about if the Saiyans were not killed. So we're not killed. So we're talking Bardock is still alive. Goku would obviously be alive, but we would know him as Kakarot. Vegeta, King Vegeta, all of them still alive. Now this would have to be mostly because Beerus falls asleep. Beerus doesn't like King Vegeta. We all know this already because he gave Beerus the second softest pillow or second most comfortable pillow in the universe. And maybe it's an ego thing for King Vegeta, or maybe it's a sheer stupidity thing to mess with the god of destruction. But they would luck out here because Beerus would actually fall asleep. Now, does this mean they're good on all terms? Probably not. They'll probably end up being screwed when Beerus wakes up. But for a long period of time, the Saiyans would probably run everything. They would basically be unchecked warriors, and they would be able to dominate every single planet you can possibly think of. But here's the thing, as the Saiyans grow in power, and the more they grow throughout this time, that includes someone like Vegeta, that includes someone like Goku or Kakarot, and we have people like Bardock and King Vegeta. To be fair, Bardock is going to be growing a lot more than King Vegeta ever was. Now you can take this a couple of ways. The Saiyans would end up heavily plateauing if they don't train. We know that Saiyans have a tendency of not really training. Yes, they do grow in strength, but that's mostly because of the fact that they get Zenkais, they get injured in battle, and they heal up. But if they don't train, they will most likely and indefinitely plateau because Zenkais will only get them so far. But now, let's talk about if they do train. I always say this all the time, especially in a previous video. The Saiyans have untapped potential as a whole group or a whole race. Every last Saiyan could be extremely powerful, and I truly believe that. Now, will that actually happen? I'm not so sure. I think I would personally lean to the idea that the Saiyans will plateau in strength and they just won't be as strong as someone like Goku and Vegeta were when they were training. But since that's not fun, because we're talking about a Saiyan race that will most likely just die off eventually over the next 10, 20, 30 years, I'm more thinking of an idea that would be a little bit better. The Saiyans grow in strength, and they continue to train and grow in power, and maybe even learn new techniques. We saw how Bardock was when he was traveling to different planets, and it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that maybe Bardock and Kakarot would be similar in person. And maybe Bardock and Kakarot would be open to learning and training with different races. Because we saw that Bardock has some sort of heart and has some sort of kind of love in his heart in a way that most Saiyans just don't have. And maybe that's because of Guinea, but we don't know that for sure, but we can make that assumption. She's one of the Saiyans that are very loving and not more or less just this brutish warrior. And with all that said, we might see a future Kakarot or a future Bardock that is actually strong and might even eclipse people like King Vegeta, like Vegeta himself, and so on and so forth. And Bardock may even end up being kind of the top of the echelon of all of the Saiyans. which would be an insane feat for not only Bardock, but also for all low-class warriors. This whole class system with the Saiyans would have to be remade, rethought, because at the end of the day, it seems like Bardock would be able to show that hard work can get you there, and Kakarot could show the exact same thing. I think Goku, or who obviously Kakarot right now, would show what the rest of the Saiyans were truly lacking, would show that they are all lacking a will to train and a true will to fight. Now, would they be able to beat some of the scariest foes in the universe? Maybe a potential Cell that would be far weaker than normal, don't get me wrong, and maybe even a Majin Buu that would eventually be awakened because of the Saiyans, because of their unrelenting power. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could look at this. Majin Buu is a foe that is terrifying. And would the Saiyans be able to eclipse that level of power even if they were training? I mean, I'm not sure. There's no 100% answer for that in my opinion. If we're talking about if they were hardcore training, we're talking about gravity training, all working together, all training together, no classes, no high end, no low end, no middle class, none of that. And we're talking about just training to get stronger and stronger and stronger. I think they could get to a level of Majin Buu. I think they could get to the level to take him down. I mean, this is a warrior race that loves to fight. If they can shift the warrior race into everyone loving to train together, the Saiyan potential is insane. And I could truly believe from high class to low class to middle class, whatever you can think of, they would absolutely destroy. And Majin Buu would end up falling. But is that thinking too optimistic in terms of the Saiyan race? I think so. I think there's a good chance the Saiyan race just coasts along with what they already had, thinking that they're already strong enough to deal with everything in the universe, and eventually Majin Buu would come knocking, or maybe even someone like Cell, and kill them. That's a really good chance, really high likelihood of that happening. Now, would that be fun? Not really. Of course, that would be very disheartening, but still, it would most likely happen that way. But let's just say they did train together. They did work together. The class system was kind of shattered by the idea of any Saiyan being able to keep up as long as they put in the work. If that was the case, we would most likely see a Saiyan race that could defeat Majin Buu. And on top of defeating Majin Buu, there would be endless amounts of warriors that were absolutely powerful. So when Beerus awakens, believing of a Super Saiyan God, he would have multiple Super Saiyan gods. Now that's a timeline that I would enjoy. A Vegeta, a Kakarot, a Bardock, maybe a Raditz, maybe even other Saiyans we don't know about that have insane potentials, maybe even higher than Goku, Vegeta, and them. Maybe they are Super Saiyan gods. Maybe they are allowed to awaken Super Saiyan godhood. That would be absolutely amazing to see. And a team of the Universe 7 eventually leading into kind of a universal tournament between 6 and 7 would look a lot different. A lot different. And you might be wondering, I mean, we don't know if it would actually occur because Earth on Universe 7 wouldn't be in the situation that it was. And I agree, it could be kind of iffy in terms of that. But for the story's sake, I would say that maybe Champa would still want the Super Dragon Balls. And being that they spanned across both universes, him coming into Universe 7 would set alarms off for Lord Beerus, and Beerus himself would say that he wants the Super Dragon Balls. And that's how the tournament would come about. The Universe 7 Saiyans versus the team of Universe 6. But how would that work? And how would that look? What would a team of Universe 6 versus Universe 7 look in this entire timeline, in this reality? Well, you're gonna have to find out in the final part of What If Frieza Was Born in Universe 6, where we're going to go back to Universe 6 and talk about what I think would happen if not only if Frieza was born there, but what would happen once the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament was staged and ready to go. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I said it before, I'll say it again. In the description below, there's a Discord, there's a Spotify you can check out, all that good stuff. And I'll try to promote this every video, but I have trouble doing that sometimes. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.